She released the Hive Beast on his crew. Now it won't stop hunting him. The twin moons of Korvox 9 hung low in the sky, casting a cold blue light over the mining colony below. The machines had gone quiet for the night. The workers had returned to their shelters, but high up on the rocky ridge something deadly was being prepared. Valari stood tall, her silver armor glowing in the moonlight. She was an alien noble, proud, fierce, and raised to believe her people were above all others, especially above humans. Below her, near the center of the colony, the human foreman, Logan Hale, was finishing his night patrol. He checked the mining equipment, spoke kindly to a tired worker, and paused to pet one of the small alien creatures that wandered the camp. He didn't act like a leader. He acted like an equal. Valari hated that. "He disrespects the order," she said coldly. "He speaks to workers like they are his brothers. There is no fear in them." Her servant Kareth bowed low. "Shall I file a report with the council?" "No," Valari replied, her voice icy. "Reports take time. Fear is faster." She turned toward the dark forest that surrounded the colony. With a sharp whistle, she summoned it. From the shadows came the sound of heavy breathing, a low growl. Then eyes like fire opened in the darkness. Zareth, the apex predator of her world. Part wolf, part reptile, part something ancient as large as a small transport covered in black fur and armored plates. Its mouth held twin rows of teeth. It moved like a shadow made of muscle. Only bonded handlers could command it, but Valari didn't command Zareth with kindness. She controlled it with hunger and pain. She stepped forward and placed her hand on its forehead. The beast stilled. "I give you one target," she whispered in her native tongue. "The human named Logan Hale." Zareth growled, its claws scratching deep lines in the stone. "Find him. End him." The beast vanished into the trees without a sound. Down, in the colony, Logan stood near the power station finishing his report. He yawned. It had been a long day. 2 broken drills, 1 injured worker, and a system glitch in the oxygen filters. But things were stable now. He looked up at the stars. Then he felt it. The silence. Too deep, too sudden. Even the wind had stopped. Logan turned slowly. The trees moved, and then it came. A blur of black fur and red eyes. Zareth leaped from the shadows, jaws open, claws raised. Logan dove to the side, barely dodging the strike. The beast landed with a crash, growling low. Logan didn't have a weapon, just his flashlight and his calm. He stood slowly, hands raised. "I don't know what you are," he said softly, "but I don't want to fight you." Zareth circled him, tail whipping through the air. Logan didn't run. He didn't scream. He just watched the creature carefully. "You're angry, hungry, forced to do this." He knelt down slowly and reached into his coat. Zareth tensed. Logan pulled out a piece of cooked meat from his dinner pouch and placed it on the ground. The beast sniffed the air, paused, then stepped forward and ate. Logan didn't move. "You're not evil," he said gently. "You're just following orders." Zareth looked at him, eyes burning, then lowered its head, and for the first time in its life, let a human touch it. The next morning, the colony woke to gasps and disbelief. Logan Hale rode into the camp on the back of Zareth like a king on a war mount. The workers stopped what they were doing. The guards froze. Even the machines seemed to pause. Valari watched from her balcony, eyes wide. Zareth walked calmly through the camp and stopped in front of her platform. Logan looked up at her. "Is this yours?" he asked, patting the beast's head. Valari said nothing. Her mouth refused to move. Logan smiled calmly. "You might want to feed it better. He prefers kindness over commands." Then he rode off, leaving behind only silence and the sound of a noble woman's pride shattering like glass. Zareth should have been locked in a steel cage by now. Instead, he was napping under a tree with a human sitting beside him. Valari couldn't believe what she was seeing. From her tower window, she stared down at the training yard where her deadly apex predator, raised to kill, trained only to obey, was now resting peacefully while Logan scratched behind its ears. It didn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense. This creature had torn armored beasts in half. It had crushed machines with its jaws. It had never ever been touched without biting. Until now. The other aliens whispered in disbelief. Is that really Zareth? How is it obeying him? He should be dead. Some even backed away when Logan walked through the colony, the massive beast calmly padding behind him like a loyal hound. No chain, no control collar, just trust. Logan didn't act proud. He didn't brag. He simply gave the beast space, patience, and something no one else had ever offered it: respect. Inside the command center, Valeri's pride was burning hotter than fire. She slammed her hand on the table. "This is not possible," she growled. "He used drugs or a hidden device. Something. Unnatural." "No device was detected," Kareth said carefully. "The beast is clean, no injections, no neural tags." "Then he tricked it." Kareth hesitated. "Or he connected with it." Valeri turned sharply. "That thing is not a pet. It is a weapon." "And yet, it chose him," he whispered. Later that day, Logan was cleaning mining tools when a Solari warrior approached him cautiously. "Foreman Logan," the warrior said. "Council requests a demonstration. Publicly." Logan stood, wiping his hands. "Of what?" "Of your bond. They don't trust it. They don't understand it." Logan nodded once. "Tell them I'll be there." The following morning, the Beast Pit, a massive arena once used for training war creatures, was packed with spectators. Humans, aliens, guards, nobles, everyone came to see if the impossible was true. Could a human truly tame the untamable? Valeri stood above in the council box, arms crossed, face emotionless, but her eyes never left the gate. Then the gate opened, and Logan entered, walking beside Zareth with no armor, no shield, and no fear. Whispers spread through the crowd. "He has no protection. He's insane. He's going to die." A horn sounded. The test had begun. At first, nothing happened. Zareth stood beside Logan, calm. Then the arena began to shift. Walls opened to reveal metal arms that swung heavy chains. Blinding lights flashed. High-pitched noise rang out across the pit, specially designed to trigger rage in wild beasts. Zareth growled, muscles tensed. The crowd leaned forward, but Logan didn't run. He placed a hand on the beast's side. "Easy," he said. "I'm still here." Zareth snarled once, then slowly backed away from the swinging arms. Its breathing slowed. The machine raised the sound again. Zareth shook its head, then sat down beside Logan. The crowd erupted. Some shouted, some clapped, some just stared. Valeri gripped the railing. This wasn't possible. Later, after the pit emptied, Logan was stopped by a small alien girl near the edge. "Can I pet him?" she asked softly. Logan looked at Zareth. "Up to him." The girl stepped forward. Zareth sniffed her hand, then gently licked it. The girl squealed in joy. Valeri saw it all from above, and for the first time she felt something stranger than anger: doubt. In the oldest records of Valeri's people, it was said, "The Beast Pit is not for training. It is for proving who commands and who obeys." That belief had built empires. It had also never been tested by a human, until now. Word of Logan's success had traveled fast. Too fast. By the next day, messages from distant provinces arrived. Noble houses were offended. War beast handlers demanded answers. Some claimed Logan had used forbidden tech. Others insisted it was staged. So the High Council ordered a formal trial. This time, not just a public demonstration, but a combat test. Logan would enter the pit again, but not alone. 3 other apex predators were chosen, all untamed, all born in captivity for blood sport. Zareth would face them, but he would not be alone. Logan would be in the center of the pit with nothing but his voice to protect him. If Zareth turned on him, or if he failed to control the beast, it would mean death. When Logan arrived at the arena, he found Valeri waiting. She didn't mock him. She didn't smile, she only said, "You can still step away." He looked at her calmly. "Would you?" Her silence was his answer. The gate opened. The crowd roared. This time even the humans in the colony came to watch. In the center of the massive stone circle, Logan stood alone. Dust blew around his boots. High above, the sun cut through the arena dome, casting long shadows. A horn blew once. Then came the monsters. The three beasts were released one by one. The first, a tusked brute called Dravak, roared and smashed the wall with its horned head. The second, a snake-limbed crawler, named Reich, slithered low with poisonous spines on its back. The third, a blind screecher called Vach, spun in circles, releasing high-pitched sonic waves. All three smelled the same thing, a human. Logan didn't move. The gate behind him opened. Zareth stepped into the arena and didn't charge. He stood between Logan and the other beasts. His growl rose low and deep, his eyes locked on Dravak first. The brute charged. Logan braced himself, but Zareth met the charge head-on, shoulder to shoulder, jaws flashing. The crowd held its breath. Dravak tried to throw Zareth off, but the black-furred beast twisted low, using its weight to slam Dravak into the stone floor. Dust exploded. The tusked brute staggered. Zareth roared. It wasn't just fighting, it was protecting. Reich slithered from the side, trying to sneak toward Logan. Zareth whirled around, placing itself between them. The crawler hissed and fired, a spine. Logan ducked. Zareth charged forward, knocking Reich into the arena wall, pinning it with raw force. Only Vach remained. It screeched. A sonic blast filled the air. Logan covered his ears. Zareth howled in pain, then did something no one had ever seen. It leapt over Logan's head and landed on Vach's back, claws digging deep. One more final slam. Silence. All three apex beasts lay defeated, and Logan still stood, unharmed. The arena exploded in noise, not just from humans, from aliens too. The crowd rose to their feet. Even the stone-faced counselors looked at each other, speechless. Logan walked calmly to Zareth, who lay panting on the ground. He placed a hand on its side. "Good boy," he whispered. Zareth nuzzled him. The crowd fell silent again, not out of shock, out of respect. High above, Valerie stood still. Her hand trembled slightly on the railing because in that moment, she saw what power truly was. Not domination, not fear, but loyalty freely given. Valerie had always believed in control. Control of herself, control of others, control of beasts. That belief had made her powerful, but now she had lost control of the one thing she never expected, Zareth. And worse, it had chosen a human. Late that night, while the colony celebrated Logan's victory in the arena, Valerie sat alone in her war room. No music, no guards, just silence and the dim glow of holographic screens circling the table. She wasn't angry, she was thinking, analyzing. Why him? She replayed the footage again and again. Zareth fighting for Logan, shielding him, listening to his voice without being forced. Her fingers tapped the desk. Beasts do not form bonds. They obey, they fear, they submit. So what did he do? "Kareth," she said, and her quiet servant entered. "Yes, Highborn? Send 2 of our shadow trackers. I want every movement Logan makes recorded, every word, every interaction with the beast." She narrowed her eyes. "There is always a secret. I intend to find it." The next day, her spies followed Logan from a distance. They watched him rise early to help the wounded miners. They saw him check equipment, share jokes, and teach 2 alien children how to fix a broken pump. He never showed off. He never mentioned the arena victory. But he always had Zareth near him, walking calmly at his side like a silent guardian. Later that evening, he took the beast out of the colony and into the wild hills. Valerie's spies followed quietly. What they saw stunned them. Logan sat on a flat rock beneath a star-filled sky. Zareth lay beside him, stretched out like a giant shadow. No chains, no commands. Logan reached into his pack and pulled out a cloth. He cleaned one of Zareth's claws gently as if brushing a child's scraped knee. Then he spoke, not loudly, not for anyone to hear, just soft, honest words. "I don't think you're a monster," he said. "I think they just never gave you a chance to be more." Zareth rumbled softly. Logan smiled. People fear what they don't try to understand. The spy returned to Valari that night with the full recording. She watched it in silence, hands folded. No drugs, no force, no tech, only trust. The next morning, Valari did something unexpected. She went to Logan's worksite alone. No guards, no armor, no warning. Logan noticed her from a distance, stopped what he was doing, and stepped forward slowly. Zareth didn't growl. It simply watched her, calm but alert. Valari looked at the man she had once tried to kill. Then she said the one thing no one expected to hear from her mouth. "How?" Logan raised an eyebrow. "How what? How did you do it? No tricks, no lies. Tell me the truth." Logan didn't smile. He simply crouched beside Zareth and placed a hand on the beast's side. "I didn't try to own him," he said. "I tried to understand him." Valerie crossed her arms. "And that's it?" "No," he said. "I also showed him something he never got from anyone else." "What?" Logan looked up at her. "Choice." Valerie didn't answer. Her face was hard to read. Then slowly, she stepped forward. Zareth rose, watching her closely. She paused inches away and reached out a gloved hand. Zareth didn't bite, didn't growl. He allowed it. For the first time, Valerie touched her own war beast, and it didn't flinch. She pulled her hand back and whispered, "He was never the monster." Logan stood beside her. "No, we were." For the first time in her life, Valerie felt something heavier than defeat. She felt respect. The sky cracked open with a scream. Winds tore across the colony with the force of a crashing starship. Dust covered everything. Lights failed. Alarms screamed. The storm of teeth had arrived. It came once every decade on Korvox 9, ripping the land with wind blades sharp enough to skin metal, lightning that struck sideways, and choking dust that blinded even the strongest soldiers. This storm didn't knock. It invaded. Logan was in the western trench helping reinforce the mining supports when the first blast hit. The sky turned brown. Communication died. Metal shelters groaned under pressure. He yelled to the crew, "Evacuate to the deep bunkers, take the southern tunnels." Then he turned, and Zareth was already at his side, eyes glowing bright against the storm. The beast didn't run. It stood firm, waiting for orders. But Logan wasn't thinking of the camp now. He was thinking of someone else. Far on the eastern ridge, Valerie stood alone. She had refused to join the colony leaders in the underground shelter. "Let them run," she had said. "I do not cower." But now the wind cut like knives, and the support tower beneath her feet shook dangerously. Her guards were gone, her signal beacon offline. She was trapped and alone. Lightning struck nearby. The force threw her against a wall. Her arm hit metal, sharp and hard. Blood ran down her sleeve. Dust filled her mouth. For a moment, Valerie lay, still blinking up at the storm clouds. Was this how it ended? Crushed by her own pride? But then a roar, louder than the wind, echoed through the sky. Not thunder. Something alive. Something powerful. She turned her head just in time to see a massive black shadow leap through the swirling sand. Zareth. And riding on his back. One, hand gripping fur, the other shielding his eyes, was Logan. He pulled Zareth to a halt beside the collapsing structure. "Valerie!" he shouted, jumping down. She tried to speak, but the wind swallowed her voice. He knelt beside her, checking her arm. "You're lucky," he muttered. "Another 10 minutes and this whole ridge would have buried you." She stared at him, dazed. You came back. He looked at her seriously. Of course I did. Zareth growled low and impatient, sensing more danger. All right, big guy, Logan said. Let's get her out. He lifted Valeri carefully. Her pride wanted to protest, but her body was too weak. Her head rested against his chest, and for the first time, she let someone else carry her. They mounted Zareth together, and then, through sand and fury, claws and chaos, the beast ran. By the time they reached the central bunker, the storm was near its peak. The doors opened just long enough to let them inside before sealing again. Medical teams rushed forward. Logan handed Valerie off to the medics, but she grabbed his arm. Don't leave, she said quietly. I'm not going anywhere. Later, under flickering, emergency lights, Valerie sat wrapped in a thermal blanket. Her arm was bandaged. The storm still howled outside, but the tremble in her chest was no longer fear. It was something unfamiliar. Warmth. Logan sat beside her, sipping from a ration cup. You didn't have to come back, she said. I know. She looked at him carefully. You risked your life for someone who tried to kill you. I know that too. Why? Logan shrugged. Maybe because you needed help. Maybe because someone has to stop the cycle. Maybe because that's what humans do. She turned away, silent for a moment, then whispered, Thank you. In the corner of the bunker, Zareth curled up quietly, massive tail wrapping around its body. Its head rested beside Logan's boot, and when Valeri leaned forward and softly touched the beast's paw, it didn't move away. It simply stayed still, accepting her touch. Outside, the storm screamed on, but inside that bunker a wall had fallen, not made of stone but of pride, and between a human, a noble, and a beast, something new had begun. Zareth slept between them, massive, silent, peaceful, like a mountain that could breathe. The storm had passed, but inside the recovery chamber time moved slower. Logan sat on one side of the great beast, quietly adjusting a cracked boot. On the other side, Valeri sat still, her injured arm in a sling, watching the way the beast's chest slowly rose and fell. No guards, no armor, no weapons, only the three of them. A man, a noble, and the creature that once stood between them like a wall, now resting like a bridge. Do you know what I was taught about your kind? Valerie asked quietly. Logan didn't look up. Humans, she nodded. That you were weak, loud, clumsy, reckless, too emotional to be trusted. He gave a faint smile. Fair enough. Some of that's true. She tilted her head. But you're not weak. He looked at her now. And you're not heartless. They both fell silent again. Zareth made a soft growl in his sleep, dreaming. Valeri reached forward carefully, resting her hand on his thick fur. He used to snap at me, she said, even though he was bonded. We trained him to respond to pain, shocks, hunger, fear. We thought it made him strong. Logan ran his fingers through the beast's mane. Fear makes things obey, but trust makes them stay. Valeri watched him closely. You didn't win him, she said. You freed him. Outside the chamber, the colony had changed. Miners from different species now spoke together more freely. Children ran beside Zareth when he passed, no longer screaming in terror but laughing in awe. The council had not spoken out since the storm, not because they were afraid, but because they knew something stronger than law had taken root. She stared at him, dazed. You came back. He looked at her seriously. Of course I did. Zareth growled low and impatient, sensing more danger. All right, big guy, Logan said. Let's get her out. He lifted Valeri carefully. Her pride wanted to protest, but her body was too weak. Her head rested against his chest, and for the first time, she let someone else carry her. They mounted Zareth together, and then, through sand and fury, claws and chaos, the beast ran. By the time they reached the central bunker, The storm was near its peak. The doors opened just long enough to let them inside before sealing again. Medical teams rushed forward. Logan handed Valerie off to the medics, but she grabbed his arm. "Don't leave," she said quietly. "I'm not going anywhere." Later, under flickering emergency lights, Valerie sat wrapped in a thermal blanket. Her arm was bandaged. The storm still howled outside, but the tremble in her chest was no longer fear. It was something unfamiliar. Warmth. Logan sat beside her, sipping from a ration cup. "You didn't have to come back," she said. "I know." She looked at him carefully. "You risked your life for someone who tried to kill you." "I know that too." "Why?" Logan shrugged. "Maybe because you needed help. Maybe because someone has to stop the cycle. Maybe because that's what humans do." She turned away, silent for a moment, then whispered, "Thank you." In the corner of the bunker, Zareth curled up quietly, massive tail wrapping around its body. Its head rested beside Logan's boot, and when Valerie leaned forward and softly touched the beast's paw, it didn't move away. It simply stayed still, accepting her touch. Outside, the storm screamed on, but inside that bunker, a wall had fallen. Not made of stone, but of pride. And between a human, a noble, and a beast, something new had begun. Zareth slept between them, massive, silent, peaceful, like a mountain that could breathe. The storm had passed, but inside the recovery chamber, time moved slower. Logan sat on one side of the great beast, quietly adjusting a cracked boot. On the other side, Valerie sat still, her injured arm in a sling, watching the way the beast's chest slowly rose and fell. No guards, no armor, no weapons, only the three of them. A man, a noble, and the creature that once stood between them like a wall, now resting like a bridge. "Do you know what I was taught about your kind?" Valerie asked quietly. Logan didn't look up. "Humans." She nodded. "That you were weak, loud, clumsy, reckless, too emotional to be trusted." He gave a faint smile. "Fair enough. Some of that's true." She tilted her head. "But you're not weak." He looked at her now. "And you're not heartless." They both fell silent again. Zareth made a soft growl in his sleep, dreaming. Valerie reached forward carefully, resting her hand on his thick fur. "He used to snap at me," she said, "even though he was bonded. We trained him to respond to pain, shocks, hunger, fear. We thought it made him strong." Logan ran his fingers through the beast's mane. "Fear makes things obey, but trust makes them stay." Valerie watched him, closely. "You didn't win him," she said. "You freed him." Outside the chamber, the colony had changed. Miners from different species now spoke together more freely. Children ran beside Zareth when he passed, no longer screaming in terror, but laughing in awe. The council had not spoken out since the storm, not because they were afraid, but because they knew something stronger than law had taken root. Back inside, Logan pulled a small data pad from his coat and slid it across the floor toward Valerie. "What's this?" she asked. "A request." She opened it, read, then raised an eyebrow. "A shared training program." "Humans and aliens," Logan said, "working together, not ranked by race or title, just by skill and respect." Valerie's voice was unreadable. "And you want me to co-lead it? I want you to help me build it." She stared at the datapad, then at Zareth, finally at Logan. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." Valerie leaned back, arms crossed. "And what makes you think I've changed?" Logan chuckled. "You haven't flinched once while sitting this close to me." She smirked. "That's because I still might kill you one day." Zareth let out a low, playful rumble, almost like a laugh. Both of them smiled. For the first time, it felt natural. Later that night, under the stars outside the colony, Logan and Valerie walked side by side. No guards, no expectations, just the sound of wind in the trees. "I never thought I'd ride beside a human," she said. I never thought I'd talk like this with someone who once tried to have me eaten. She glanced at him. And yet here we are. Zareth walked behind them, silent, alert, and loyal. No longer a weapon, now a symbol of what could happen when fear became friendship. The colony no longer whispered when Zareth walked by. They waved. Children tossed him pieces of dried fruit. Engineers paused to pet his massive side. Even the nervous guards had stopped flinching when the shadow of his wings brushed against the walls. The apex predator had become a protector, and the human he chose. He had become something else entirely. Not a commander, not a legend, a bridge. Logan. Hale stood at the heart of the new training grounds, now a shared open space between humans and aliens. The thick stone pillars once used for punishment had been reshaped into garden towers. Drones hovered peacefully, scanning the young recruits in their mixed armor sets, half Terran, half Solari. And beside him, clipboard in hand, stood Valari. Yes, that Valari. She read the day's schedule aloud with the same sharpness she once used to give kill orders. Combat drills at 10 hour, conflict mediation at noon, joint strategy games by 4 hour. Logan grinned. You say that like it's a threat.